be, to a degree, magical. And she was part of, that was 1957, 56, 57, and she was a lesson to me in that. And unfortunately, in the last 6 or 7 decades, more and more plays are about people who dress like this. And, if I see a picture of a play where the actor's got a hoodie and a plaid shirt and sweats, and the girl is in little cut-off jeans and stuff, I don't go to it, because I just open the window and look on the street, and I can see that. I want to see plays in which the characters take me to another place.
So you're not worried that you sound like a fuddy-duddy when you say that?
No, I'm sure I do sound like a fuddy-duddy, and I've earned the right to sound like a fuddy-duddy. Yeah.
Well, I think it's Shakespeare. If nothing else, Shakespeare will tell you that you want to aim very, very high. You want to aim for more rarefied air in order to go deeper into humanity. We can get distracted by so many of modern mannerisms, by surface mannerisms.
Yeah.
What about now? You talk about James Mason, who I think we both agree was an extraordinary actor, as having lost that spirit, that sort of will to be great on stage, as having something in him died. And what did that to see that? How has that affected you as you've gotten to?
Well, it was a lesson to me. I met James at a dinner party. I met him on a few occasions, but the one that stands out is he was at a dinner party, and I was in my late 40s, I suppose, maybe. My children were my kids were like 6 and something like that. And he was older than me, and he asked me if I still loved acting, and I said, very much. And he said, I don't love it anymore. And I asked him why he did it, and he said, she wants me. And that was his wife who wanted to work with him. And he had about him a kind of deadness in his eyes. I always thought he was a magnificent film actor. And I remembered that deadness of soul. It seemed to me he was just getting up every day and playing. He always was wonderful on screen, always. That marvelous voice and that demeanor he had. But then when I wrote about James, I remembered that I'd once sat in a Charlie Rose dressing room waiting to do an interview, and Jack Palance was sitting next to me. And then I met Peter, who won for Peter Finch. And then I met Jimmy Coburn when he won the Oscar. And these 4 men all had that same sort of deadness and sadness in them. And all the other 3 had all won Oscars. And what I said in the book was, obviously, winning an Oscar doesn't do it for you, because they all seemed deeply and profoundly sad. And I was in my 40s, 50s, early 60s. And I did make a mental note that I would never allow that to happen to me, that I would sooner not work in this profession if I ever was to regard it as just a job and what the hell and why not? You don't keep that curiosity alive.
That brings up the issue of some of the movies you've been in, a kind of a long line of stinkers at one point in your career.
I would say an intermittent line of stinkers.
Okay. Well, most famously, of course, there was Sphinx, there was Masters of the Universe, there was... but most famously, the one that you actually, it's very rare in this book that you sort of ridicule anybody who's still alive, perhaps for fear of seeing them again, but Cutthroat Island is a film that you make an exception. It's in the course of a chapter in which he's talking about the spectacularly self-destructive alcoholic Oliver Reed, who was fired from Cutthroat Island, and you think he got the better deal, having only spent a day or 2 on the set before going off into the brothels of Malta.
I write that he would have, had he seen the movie, he would have been stunned sober forever.
Which maybe that would have helped him live a few years longer. Yeah. But so can you talk about that experience and what it taught you about? I remember also what you didn't say in the book. The last time I talked to you, you said, well, I can't say anything bad about Cutthroat Island because it put my kids through school.
Yeah.
But obviously that's a...
They're grown up now. Yeah.
What?
They're grown up now. It's fair game. I can say it. Yeah. It was really the most egregious use of money I've ever watched. It was a horrible movie to be on for excess, to watch both my leading lady and the director and almost everyone else on it take, to make a film that was basically high-class crap, really. And it was a sad situation to be caught in. But you don't start out to say, I'm going to do a movie that will be bad. You get there, you're in Malta or Thailand, as I was for 4 or 5 months, and once you've done the first big shot, you can't leave the film. And you have no control over it. And it was a very, very cynical and terribly self-indulgent film.
But how did you, as an actor, what did you do apart from suffer? I mean, did you find anything to play, any way into this
Yes,
character?
I just ground down deep into my character and worked as hard as I could. And actually, in that movie, I had so much free time, and I was playing a pirate. So I went to the gym every morning for 2 hours and tried to keep myself healthy, and I ran around Malta 2 hours a night, and I adopted a little kitten. So when my kids came and my wife came over to see me, we had this little kitten that we managed to get that kitten back to Los Angeles, and it lived for a number of years and then was eaten by a coyote in the hills. And I thought, this little teeny kitten this big that I found curled up in the rain, shivering and shaking, that I thought, well, if I don't save this kitten, it's going to die. And then I shipped it from Malta to London to Europe, and it gets eaten by a coyote. Hi, baby. Well, no. You there? Yeah, can you hear me? Oh, wonderful. So you had to use cash? The ATM wouldn't work? Yeah. Uh, it wouldn't even take. Oh, what about your ATM? Your ATM card? Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought the machine was completely. Okay, baby. See you in a few. Okay, baby. Thanks for calling me. Bye. And I would feel that she could have worked on his shoulders forever, and it would not have solved his problem. His problem was not in his shoulders, his problem was here. So maybe she got him to cry for 2 hours. Would see me unkindly, others would see me lovingly.
If you've been writing about yourself, say,
Really the most egregious use of money I've ever watched. It was a horrible movie to be on for excess, to watch both my leading lady and the director and almost everyone else on it take, to make a film that was basically high-class crap, really. And it was a sad situation to be caught in. But you don't start out to say, I'm going to do a movie that will be bad. You get there, you're in Malta or Thailand, as I was for 4 or 5 months, and once you've done the first big shot, you can't leave the film. And you have no control over it. And it was a very, very cynical and terribly self-indulgent film.
But so how did you, as an actor, what did you do apart from suffer? I mean, did you find anything to play, any way into this
Yes,
character?
I just ground down deep into my character and worked as hard as I could. And actually, in that movie, I had so much free time, and I was playing a pirate. So I went to the gym every morning for 2 hours and tried to keep myself healthy. And I ran around Malta 2 hours a night, and I adopted a little kitten. So when my kids came and my wife came over to see me, we had this little kitten that we managed to get that kitten back to Los Angeles, and it lived for a number of years and then was eaten by a coyote in the hills. And I thought, this little teeny kitten this big that I found curled up in the rain, shivering and shaking, that I thought, well, if I don't save this kitten, it's going to die. And then I shipped it from Malta to London to New York to LA, and it gets eaten by a coyote, you know, in a posh neighborhood. And so you see, your fate is your fate.
And how can you extrapolate that to Cutthroat Island and to?
Well, I'm sure the kitten was lucky to get out of Malta, you know. So, as indeed was I.
Well, was there a point though in your career, in your movie career, where you just said, "I'm taking these jobs; these are money jobs. On one level, you're lucky to have them; they subsidize your stage work, but I can't do that anymore."
I think at that point, that's almost 20 years ago, I needed the money very much. I had a house and a wife and 2 kids and 3 dogs and mortgages and stuff, and it was a huge amount of money for me at the time. And I also wanted to play a pirate. I wanted to do something big and theatrical. And on Reputation, I liked Gina very much, and Rennie Harlan, who directed it, told me wonderful things. So it seemed like it was going to be a great adventure. And sometimes they are, actually, and sometimes they're not.
You said you liked Gina very much. She was here in Sarasota last year and receiving an award, but clearly something happened to her at a certain phase in her career when she had people throwing this much money at her. Have you seen that a lot with actors who become stars?
Yes, I have, and I write in the book that Cutthroat Island was the worst example of it. And it's worse and worse for young actors now because they have agents, managers, publicists, makeup artists, stylists, designers of their houses. They pay 10% to an agent, often 15% to a manager. They pay thousands of dollars a month to a publicist to keep them in the news over and over again. And very often when you see an actor in that position who's making millions of dollars, and then the tax man comes, half to 2/3 of it is going to their support system, which is, of course, absurd.
Mm-hmm. You talk about Gina Davis as having people coming up and frantically applying makeup to her for shots, in between shots in which she was off camera.
Yeah.
What on earth?
I know. I say in the book that is, of all the incredible things I've witnessed in this incredible profession, good and bad, I will never forget watching 3 makeup people make up an actress fully, hair, makeup, and keep redoing it, and she was off camera. So, you know.
But I couldn't process it. Why?
Exactly. Well, one of the reasons was her husband was the director, so no one
liked to look at her.
No one was not going to, but no one was going to tell her not to do it. So, and that's what happens when you get that lofty. If nothing against her, she was very sweet to me. I think maybe she just needed all that attention, and it didn't occur to anybody to say, "You don't need it now. You know, you need it later." It's sad, really. It's not meant to be bitchy. It's sad.
One of the most, speaking of excess, one of the most private people, in the 20th century, almost flamboyantly private, if such a thing is possible, was Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, and you take us into her compound in a way that I had never read before. I don't know if anybody has. Did you think long and hard? I mean, was there something that made you very, very cautious, very sensitive when you were writing that chapter?
It's the book was a tightrope for me. It's probably twice the length in my file cabinets and closet space, and all of that will eventually get